All right, we're going to take a look at this inequality here, and we're going to take a look at how do we solve this and how do we then graph it out in the end. That's the goal of this question here. It's asking you to graph the inequality. Now, the problem with this inequality is we can't graph it until we get a variable isolated and we know exactly what the value of that variable is. And in this case here, the j, which happens to be our variable, is buried on the left-hand side with a bunch of operations and numbers. So we're going to have to do a little bit of algebra here in order to isolate our variable, which means to get it by itself. All right, so you'll notice here that I've put the inequality there up in yellow, and that's where we're going to start. And the first thing we're going to do is remove the 16. Now, it's very important in this case here when we go through basic algebra to realize that the 16 is positive, which means to get rid of it, we need to subtract 16. Okay, it's super important that we do that. Now, remember that if we do something on one side of this inequality, we have to balance it out by doing the exact same thing on the other side. So by subtracting 16 from the left-hand side, we also have to subtract 16 from the right-hand side. When we do this, we're going to be left with negative 3j is less than or equal to negative 20. And you'll notice that that inequality sign just stays right there in between. It's like an equal sign, but it's just slightly different. And we're going to look at an example of what makes it so different in this very soon. All right, so now we still have the j has a number in front of it. We call it a coefficient. That number is being multiplied to the j value, so we need to divide to get rid of it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to divide every term, in this case it's just one term on each side, by negative 3. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is going to cancel out and become positive 1, which is important because then we get positive 1j. Negative 20 divided by negative 3 is going to become positive because it's two negatives there. And it's going to become positive 20 over 3. And so this is what it's going to look like. Okay, 20 over 3, or we could simplify that, or sorry, change that. It's not really simplifying. Change that to 6 2/3. Okay, they both work. Now, when you're looking at this here, you might recognize something if you're paying attention, noticing something changed. This guy right here. Notice how in the original, it's pointing to the left, meaning it's a less than or equal to sign. But in the answer, it is a greater than or equal to sign. Because as we're isolating the variable, we have to divide or multiply by a negative number. When that happens, we need to switch our sign. So we swap it from a less than to a greater than symbol to make it still true. Now, if you want to grab a number that's bigger than 6 2/3, like 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, and try it in this inequality to see if it works, you're going to notice that that in fact works, whereas a number less than 6 is not going to work in this case. So that's something you can check if you want on your own. I'm not going to go through it in this video here. Once we have this here, then we can graph it out. So I'm going to plot a little line here. I've happened to just use regular whole numbers in this case, or integers. We could use as well. 6 2/3 is right there. You'll notice that it is a solid dot, right? Solid. It's not open because it's equal to that spot. I'm going to roughly put it at 6 2/3. Okay, I'm going to try to estimate it right there. And then because it's greater than, I'm going up. Okay, so things like 7, 8, 9, those ones all would work because they're greater than 6 2/3. I hope this has helped you. Make sure you remember when you divide by a negative, you got to swap the sign. Okay, it's important. It's a very common mistake that I see, so be careful about that. And all the best as you work through your questions and problems.